Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Beth Chats Books. Now today I'm going to be doing my January favourites video. I've decided that I'm going to do Beth's Brewtime Babble episode that's going to be dedicated to the rest of the TV and film that I watched in January. But I'm just going to do a couple of my favourite TV shows and 2 films that I managed to watch this month and a few activities that I did in January. So without further ado, let's get straight stuck in. So in January, me and my boyfriend Ben went down to Essex, which is where he's from, because he didn't have an opportunity to see his family before Christmas. So after Christmas in early January, we travelled down to visit them, and that was really nice. And we went out for a meal, and the highlight of the trip, really, we went for a few days, was to visit Shakespeare's Globe Theatre in London. So we had a tour, so me, his mum and Ben, we went for a tour around Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, which was lovely, and because it's winter they're not performing at the moment, so we're hoping to go back in the summer and actually see a performance there. It was really exciting for me to get to know a little bit about the history of why the Globe was set up there and how Shakespeare performed his plays and how they perform them now. It was very interesting, so I really enjoyed that. And then after that we went to the Tate Modern to appease my boyfriend because he really likes modern art. So he really enjoyed Picasso and Monet's Water Lilies was there, which was lovely. I'm not a massive fan of modern art, so it was a fun activity to go in and see it. I'm sure a lot of people like modern art. It's not really for me. So he enjoyed that, so that was great, and overall we had a really nice day. And then later on in the month, obviously on the 20th, if you didn't know already, that was my birthday last month. So that was really nice. I got a few bits and bobs. I didn't get books and things, but I got a lot of smellies and socks and girly things, so that was really nice. My boyfriend cooked me a really nice meal on my birthday, and the Globe was part of my present as well, and I got a few other things. So I had a really nice birthday, and I spent the day with my mum and we went out for coffee and cake, so it was a really nice kind of chilled birthday, which was really nice. And then later on in the month I went out with my friends to celebrate my birthday, so we went to this really nice cocktail bar around the corner from where I live. It's called Limes, and we had lots of gins. There were some really nice gins there because they do a whole different array of different flavours of gin. So they do elderflower, sloe gin, they do like Parma Violet gin, so it tastes like Parma Violet's the sweets, rhubarb and ginger, all kinds of different gins. So that was really nice to go out and have some cocktails because it's been a long time, gone out and got dolled up and had some cocktails. But I really enjoy that, the relaxed setting of going to a nice cocktail bar instead of necessarily going out into town and things like that. So that was really, really nice. So those are the main kind of activities that I did in January. But now, without further ado, I'm just going to get into the TV and film that I watched in January. So the first one I want to talk about is The Derry Girls. Now that is a recent TV show that has appeared on Channel 4 in the last month, and it's about a group of girls, teenage girls, and one of the teenage girls has a British male cousin who ends up also part of this kind of clique gang. And it's set in Londonderry in Ireland. It's a very witty, humorous watch. So these girls get up to all sorts. And there's a lot of humour centred around religion and the divide and the politics and the divide, and it's very sharp and witty. And these girls are trying to kind of gain identity in their particular context. So there's some really funny things. Obviously there's a lot of jokes and jibs about the IRA and about the Catholic and Protestant divide, but it is just good old-fashioned humour, and I've been really enjoying it this month. It's light relief, it just makes you laugh from start to finish, and I don't really think I can go any more in depth about the series. But if you're interested in Ireland, if you want a new comedy to be binge watching, where you don't have to know the context very well, you can just watch them in whatever order you want and just have a light-hearted giggle, then go and check The Derry Girls out. So it's currently on Channel 4 now if you're in the UK, so just pop online and go have a look at it. And then the next one I want to talk about is Kiri. So Kiri was on Channel 4 as well, and this has been a really intense drama, and it's been a 4-part drama about a little girl, Kiri, a black little girl who is adopted by a white family, and then the social workers try to get the adoption process quickened by asking permission from the white family for Kiri to have contact with her black grandfather, her biological grandfather. And then later on in the series, spoilers, but really you find out in the first episode, so it's kind of already known in the adverts and things that Kiri ends up being killed. Then there becomes this big manhunt for Sarah Lancashire's character, the social worker, who has agreed to have the contact because it's believed that the father, who's always been a bit dodgy, Kiri's biological father, has killed her, and that's what we start the series with, and we have to piece together what's happening. The son of the adopted parents is very strange. The dynamic between their family is very strange. We come to terms with a lot of the secrets of their family and secrets of Kiri's biological family. It's really riveting and emotional kind of watch, and we were glued throughout all the episodes. The last one, the ending was very rushed, and it wasn't a satisfactory ending for me. It wasn't a plausible ending. However, I do believe they're going to do a second series because of the way it was kind of rushed to an ending. It's kind of leaving suspense for a next series. There was no finality either way. So I definitely think they'll do a second series. But it's definitely worth a watch. I think the last episode kind of has backtracked on some of the great progression, especially the penultimate episode was fantastic. So I would highly recommend that if you are interested in that kind of thing. It also brings up a lot of issues about race as well and identity, but I would highly recommend you go and check it out if you're interested. It's also on Channel 4 now, so just pop online and type Kiri in and you'll have all the episodes. And then the next one I want to talk about is an old series, and it's also a series that Sarah Lancashire is quite famous for, and that is Happy Valley. And when we went to Ben's in Essex, I binge watched it while I was there for a few days. It's phenomenal. It's about Sarah Lancashire plays a cop in the Yorkshire Police, and her sister is a recovering heroin addict and alcoholic, and she lives with the family, and Sarah Lancashire is raising her grandson because her daughter died due to the fact that the grandson was conceived out of a rape. And then the rapist is out of prison when we start the series, and it's all about how Sarah knows that he's out back in the community, and a couple of other things kind of happen. But it's a really interesting series of the development of all these characters, and I love watching a series where I can really invest in characters. And Sarah Lancashire's character is completely faulted. She's very brass, to the point. She believes in this, and that is that. We see her soften over the series, we understand her more, we see her relationships with her fellow colleagues and her family and how she has to come to terms with things and her inner vulnerabilities, and so it kind of warms you to her as a character. It's not what I would call a classic police drama, it's more about the characters, not necessarily the action, and Sarah Lancashire plays an amazing part in that. So I would highly recommend to go and check that out. I think there was only 2 series of that, and they're bringing a third one out later on this year. So it's really easy if you're in the UK to catch up. That was on BBC iPlayer, and they currently have all the series. I know iPlayer can be a little bit tetchy because sometimes they say, oh, delete within 30 days, delete within 40 days. But I watched this at the beginning of this month, and it had the whole series there. So it shouldn't be too difficult to find that. So I'll link that down below. I'll link everything that I've mentioned down below, by the way, anyway. I have 2 films now that I want to talk about that I watched in the month of January. So the first one is The Post, and I went to go watch that on my birthday with my mum before we went for cake. And this one is a really interesting one. So this has got Meryl Streep in it, who plays the boss of the Washington Post at the time. And then we have Tom Hanks, who's kind of her second in command. Now, her father originally owned the Washington Post, and it's always been a family-run business, which I hadn't realised till I watched it, so that was very interesting. And then her father died, and then her husband took it over, and then her husband died. So it's a really interesting kind of personal story. So it's in the background of the Vietnamese War, and it's about, there becomes a leak. Somebody leaks a lot of very important documents from the White House that have been kept under wraps from a lot of the presidencies, including Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson. Nixon's currently in there now, and it kind of goes through a lot of the presidencies and the decisions that they made about Vietnam, and a lot of them are very damning and very shocking. But it all comes out. The New York Times first starts the ball rolling because they start publishing some works, and Nixon is infuriated and he tries to veto any more action from them. And then it's a kind of decision-making plot of, does Meryl Streep's character allow the Washington Post to get invested? She has a lot to gamble because this is her family-run business. Or does she hold back and try and preserve the business. She's also got a dilemma about whether to sell shares of the newspaper so that it can become big and global and accessible, or does she keep it as a small run family business? So there's a lot of big decisions for her character to make. What was really interesting about this film is it's very subtly a feminist film. While Tom Hanks is a big player in the action that's going on, the way that the film is made and constructed is to give you the sympathy and the compassion for Meryl Streep's character. Now, both Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks don't overplay their roles, which is fantastic. And I really like that this film is centred around a woman's decision, and she is this figure that's the very beginning of this feminist route for women, but she's completely in control. So there's some really interesting bits where she goes to meetings and she's very flustered and men talk down to her, and it's this really interesting cusp of where her character is and the journey that we then take as women, and how she was the very first that had to put up with, you know, men patronising her and men not taking her seriously in a position of power. So in that sense, it's really interesting feminist film. But again, if you're not interested in feminism, if it doesn't float your boat, if you're not aware of picking those things up within a film, you won't lose out on this film, because you can see it for the plot itself, the action, the decisions. It's a very, very good film, and I would highly recommend you watch it. And I'm also very pleased that Meryl Streep is up for an award, but that Tom Hanks wasn't, because I think that really shows what the producers and the directors and the people that backed this film really wanted you to see. And it's not in the vein of, we want to put women above men in this film and we only care about the women's plight. It's not constructed like that, but it's showing you that was a really important thread to that plot that a lot of people invested a lot of time and effort into portraying, and it's there for a reason. So please go and check that film out, because it's really, really worth it. And then later on in the week, I went to go watch The Darkest Hour with my dad and his partner. And The Darkest Hour is about Winston Churchill, and it has Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill, which I think he did a phenomenal job of, because he's wearing a fat suit the whole time, and all the jowls and the look, and also the way he does the mumbling. And Gary Oldman very subtly did those elements of his character very well. The film follows Winston Churchill's kind of development into government, him making some very controversial decisions compared to Neville Chamberlain. Is for appeasement, he's for peace talks, and he's for a non-aggressive approach to dealing with Hitler. And then Winston Churchill's approach is quite opposite to that. He doesn't want to back down. He wants us to be this fierce British bulldog against that, and to not take his crap. And obviously, as Churchill's saying this, we're not doing so well in the war. There's a general consensus of, let's not tell the public how badly we're doing, because they won't back this decision. So a lot of people within politics are getting very anxious that you can't promise them that we're going to win something if statistically we're not doing very well. So it was really interesting to kind of look at that part of history. And whether you appreciate Winston Churchill as a Prime Minister or not, I think the film was very interesting to kind of relook at a very unique piece of our history, and the people that were really in the driving seat for that, and the decisions that were made, and whether we applaud them or not. Being able to know the consequences of what happened, we can appreciate the decisions that were made. From a historian's point of view, I'm passionate about history, and so it was exciting to see this and to encourage people to be more engaged with our history. So from that point of view, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't the best film I've ever seen in the world. I think Gary Oldman really deserves an award though, because his portrayal was fantastic. I can understand why the film hasn't been nominated for too many awards, because it's not earth-shattering or life-changing, because obviously you know where the plot's going if you have any basic understanding of our history and of the history of the world wars. But nevertheless, it was enjoyable, and it was a favourite for me because I enjoy history. So I enjoy films about history. You know, I really liked The Post, and I really liked The Darkest Hour because I have context of both of those time periods and both of those settings. So I can really enjoy the extra little bits of those films. But that's everything that I want to talk about for my January favourites. I am going to be doing Beth's Brewtime Babble TV edition, so that I can talk to you a little bit more about some other things that weren't necessarily massive highlights of the month, but nevertheless TV that I've been watching and I want to talk about, because I did watch a lot of TV in January. And I also will be doing, you know, my tag videos and all my other bits very soon. But thank you guys for watching. Please hit the subscribe button if you want to be alerted for when my next videos are uploaded and out. I look forward to seeing you soon when I have another video up. Bye now.